Hi there, Mr. Muhammed is here. This is revised for Checkpoint Book, Unit 14.2. This unit is about equations of straight line or linear equations. In question 1, we have some graphs and we need to find the equations. So finding equation of a linear graph is very important. We need two things. The first thing we need is the gradient of the line, and the second thing is the point in which the line crosses y-axis. So let's work out part A. In part A we have a straight line here. So this point in which the straight line, this blue straight line crosses y-axis is positive 1. So there must be a plus 1 in the equation. And let's find the gradient. The gradient is the number before x, the coefficient of x. The gradient here, we can work on any point. Here, this line is 4. If it go down one step to 3, this line is 4, this line is 3, this is one step, so we're going to say gradient g is equal to 1, which is the vertical step, 1 over, in this point the x is 3, x is 3 in this corner, so when we come here the x will be 2, so it's also one step on the x-axis. As you see, the line is increasing from left to right, means the gradient is positive, so the gradient of this line is positive 1. Then this positive 1 must come up before the x to make the equation of y. Now y is equal to 1x plus 1, and as you know 1x is not so professional to write 1x, we simply just write x. But for the other numbers, we must write the coefficient of x. But for 1, we don't mention it. This is the equation of this straight line, y is equal to x plus 1. Part B. X is going by 2, 0 to 4, and so on. Y is going by 4. We have to take care about this. 0, 4, 8, 12, 16. And where the straight line crosses y-axis, this is halfway between 0 and 4, so it must be positive 2. Since it's positive 2, there must be a plus 2 in the equation. Now we need to find the gradient to be the coefficient of x, to be the number before x here. Now to find the gradient, let's use this point and this point. Why? Because we are not sure about the location of this point. It's clear that the x of this point is 3, but the y we are not sure. That's why we use these 2 points. In this point, the y is 14 because it's halfway between 12 and 16. Here y is 14, and when we go down to this point y is 8. So between them is 6 steps. Between them 6 steps. We have vertically 6 steps, and in this point the x is 4. In this point x is 4, so until we reach this point the x becomes 2. Between them we have 2 steps horizontal. Then gradient is equal to 6 over 2, because to find gradient we always put the vertical one on the top and the horizontal step is on the denominator here. Now 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. Everything is positive because the line is going up, it's increasing. So this 3 must come up before the x. Now the equation of this blue line is y equals 3x plus 2. Is there another way to calculate gradient? Yes, there is, but if you are happy with this way, it's better to control only one way to work out gradient. And be fast, be good with the way you prefer. The other way is like this. Mark 2 points that you work on them. Let's work on this point and this point. What's the coordinate of this point? The x of this point is 4, obviously, and the y of this point is, it's halfway between 12 and 16, which is 14. So this is the coordinate of this point. The coordinate of this point, the x is 2, it's clear, and the y is 8. Then we can say gradient is equal to, in each coordinate here, we have x and y. And for here, x and y. This point is higher, so we're going to consider these x2 and y2. And this one, x1 and y1. Then to work out the gradient, always the y should be on the top. Then we will have 14 minus 8, the result, divide by 4 minus 2. What did we do here? We did y2 minus y1 as rule, x2 minus x1 in the denominator. We did this. So this is another way to calculate gradient. This is rule. This is something that you can depend on. You can always find the gradient using this rule when you marked 2 coordinates. But in this rule, it must be perfectly marked the coordinate of the point. Now we have y2 minus y1, 14 minus 8 is equal to 6, and x2 minus x1, 4 minus 2 is equal to 2. 6 divided by 2, that gives the exact same gradient that we worked out, which is 3. Now y is equal to 3x plus 2 is the equation of this blue line. Now part C, this line is going down. Definitely we must have a negative gradient, and this line crosses y-axis in 5. This 5 is positive, right? So there must be a positive 5 in the rule, or there must be a positive 5 in the equation. Y is equal to 5, and it's positive, it's fine. Now, since this line is going down, it means the gradient is negative. So all we have to do, we need to calculate the gradient, and the number comes in front of this x to complete the linear equation. Then to find the gradient, I'm going to mark this point because it looks like it has an easy coordinate, and I'm going to mark this point. So let's work on them. Now if I go down from here, so I need 2 steps. From 4 to 2 is 2 steps, and here x is 1. When it comes here, x will be 3. On this line, x is 1. On this line, x is 3. Between them is 2 steps. So the gradient will be 2 over 2. But as you see, the line is going down, it's decreasing. It must be negative 2 over 2. That gives negative 1. The gradient is negative 1. And I told you 1 shouldn't appear in front of the x as a coefficient. It's better to just remove it. And the equation of this blue line here in part C, y equals 5 minus x, is the equation. Is it fine to write it like this? Yes, it's perfectly fine. It has no problem, 5 minus x. Or you can write the same equation in this form. Y equals negative x plus 5. It's also fine and acceptable. Then what's next? Okay, question 1 and 2 are about sequence. Previously, we talked about sequence in the previous lesson. Now, in this tutorial, we focus more about equations, linear equations, and lines. Question 3 says match the linear equation to the correct graph. So to do this, it's easy by checking up where the line crosses y-axis. So this feature is only about y-axis. Don't be tricked by searching to something like this. No, this is a common mistake. You don't need this to identify the equation. Now, one of the equations must have a +2. As you see, two equations, they have +2. Let's ignore them for now, but surely one equation has a +12 in it. So definitely graph 2 is for equation A, which is y equals 12 minus 2x. So we did one. This one is gone. A is gone. Now B. Here we need to work out the gradient because both lines, they cross y-axis in 2, so it means both of them, they have a +2 in them, but we need to work out the gradient of one of them properly, then it will help us to do the other as well. Now the gradient of this line, if I pick this point and this point, when I go down, it's 2 steps. As you see, it's going by 2, so it's 4 steps. 4 steps vertically, because I go down from 6 to 2. Vertically, it's 4 steps. And horizontally, if I work on this point, horizontally it's landed on 2, and then it goes to 0 because this time I work horizontally, so it's 2 steps. Now the gradient of this line is 4/2, and it's positive because the line is increasing. This gradient is 2. So there must be 2x plus 2, which is the equation of this graph. Y plus 2 because it's crossing y-axis in this 2. Y 2x because the gradient is equal to 2. Gradient is always the number in front of x. Now 2x plus 2, it's equation B. So question 3 has equation B. So an equation B belongs to the graph 3. This one was for the second graph, and obviously C is for the first graph. C comes up here. We matched each line to its equation. Question 4, the line L is parallel to y equals 3x plus 2 and passes through the point 1, 7. Find the equation of the line L. This question is a very interesting question. Let's use one of these grids to help us find the graph of this y and the graph of line L to help us find y. Now, what we need to know, two equations are parallel if they have the same gradient. Remember this. Two equations, two linear equations, they have parallel graphs if the equations are having the exact same gradient. Okay, now let's analyze this. Y equals 3x plus 2. To graph y equals 3x plus y equals 3x plus 2. I want to graph this equation on this xy axis. Y equals 3x plus 2. Plus 2 means it's passing through 2 on y axis. And to get the other numbers, if I put 1 in place of x, if x be equal to 1, then y will be 3 times 1. If x be equal to 1, we will have 3 times 1 plus 2. So y will be 5. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2, 5. If x be equal to 1, y equals 5. Then here x is 1 and here y is 5. So there is a straight line passing through these 2 points that represents the graph of this equation. The graph of L is parallel to this one. Then the graph of L has 3x in it and it passes through 1, 7. 1, 7 is here. 1 in x, 7 in y. It's here. It was 5 here and this is 7 here. It's 2 steps higher than this line, as you see. This point is at 5. This point is at 1, 5, and line L passes through 1, 7. So the difference between them is 2 steps. Since they are parallel, on the entire line L, it's 2 steps away from the line of this equation. Then there must be 2 steps away from this 2, which is 4. Then I can say this point, which belongs to the line L, and this point, by joining these 2 blue points with a straight line, we can get line L because it's parallel to the line of this equation. Okay, now to write the equation of line L passes through 4, then there must be a plus 4. Look, L is equal to, it's fine to say L is equal to something containing x. L, there must be a plus 4 in it because it passes y-axis in 4. And since it's parallel to this equation, it must have the same gradient than 3x. The equation of line L is 3x plus 4. These 2 equations are parallel. Why? Because they have the same gradient. That's why they are parallel. And this equation is 2 steps higher than this one because this one is plus 2, but this one is plus 4, which is 2 steps higher than 2. As you see, the lines are parallel and the equations are just like this. I hope you find it easy. Comment below your question to confirm your attendance. Feel free to ask any question, but when you ask questions, include the time. It helps me and it helps you to identify your problem and get it fixed. Thank you for watching again.